And moving on to this, or staying on this weekend, we have two Munster finals, two Munster ladies football finals involving Monagea and Oola. And starting with Oola on Saturday evening, they're in action in the Munster Junior final. They're playing Naomh Aban from Cork in the Junior Championship. They're obviously very impressive against the Fireys in their semi-final. You know, a team that lost last year's Limerick final rebounded to come back this year, win it, and only 16 minutes away from a Munster Championship medal. And they scored a lot of goals. Both sides have scored a lot of goals looking at their kind of run to the final. So it should be an exciting game, at least.
It should be an exciting game, and I think you've mapped it out there very well. About it's been the progression of Oola. It's the type of progression that's sustainable, like that you lose your final one year, you come back and you win it the following year, and then you make your first foray into provincial fair, and you're handed a kind of a poison chalice, a trip to Kerry. Any trip to Kerry, male or female, in football is daunting, but they brushed that aside and had a huge win over Fireys down on their own patch, 4-10 to 9 points. It augurs very well. Now the final is on Saturday evening at 5 o'clock in Mallow. Now they face a Naomh Aban side who would be from around the Ballyvourney area of Cork. And they had a good win over O'Donovan Ross in the Cork final, and then in the semi-final, both Oola and Naomh Aban had received buys to the respective semi-finals. So in their semi-final, they had a win over Cumra Rangers from Waterford. And they won that game quite handsomely. Now they are seeking a second title in this competition. Naomh Aban were previous winners of the Munster Junior Championship way back in 1998, which is what they'll be celebrating the 25th anniversary of it last year. So I suppose it's fair to assume that there are no survivors from that team on the present team. But look. It's absolutely fantastic for Oola, fantastic for Limerick ladies football that they have put themselves in this position, and they are a very, very competent side. Richard Bowles and his management team have done an excellent job in preparing Oola, and I expect that they will give a very, very good account of themselves, and wouldn't be entirely shocked, Jack, if were they to bring it off. Now, they'll only become the second Limerick club to do so. Like Maru Boher did it in 2014 and went on to win the All-Ireland. And if memory serves me right now, and I might be subject to correction, that Maru Boher in that year had to travel to Holland for the quarter-final. They certainly had to travel to someplace exotic anyway. It wasn't Carrick-on-Laois nor Doon, it was...
I can't confirm or deny that anyway.
But look, they're trying to emulate what their fellow East Limerick club did in 7 or 8 years ago, and I think they're in a good position, possibly to take another step, Jack.
Yeah, and winning the county would have been obviously the number one goal after losing the final last year. The shackles are off now for the side, and they do have great firepower going forward. And it's there to be won from now. They've got this far. We do wish them the very best of luck this Saturday.
Get the ball to Amy Ryan, as we see. She'll do the rest.
Yeah, exactly. She played her part in the final anyway, 2 goals. So more the same. Hopefully for Oola in the final this Saturday evening in Mallow at 5 o'clock. It won't be the only venture to Mallow for Limerick side this weekend. Monagea have their Munster final on Sunday morning at 11 in Mallow as well. They play Mullinanhone of Tipperary, and I suppose while for Oola, the shackles are off. For Monagea, it's kind of more of a case of unfinished business. They played Castle and Desmonds in the final last year. Looked to have it won, led from probably minute 1 to 50, and then the Kerry side got a goal and Monagea got within 1, but just couldn't. 1-5 to 7 they lost. And it's probably played on their minds a lot, Matt. They were really good in the Limerick Championship this year, won all their games, played by Landers in a Titanic tussle on a Wednesday, and then followed up with St. Ailbe's the following Sunday, so they beat Dr. Crokes of Kerry in the quarter final, and Fergus Rovers then of Clare in the semi. So a nice pedigree teams they played along the way, but they will be desperate to win this after last year.
Yeah, and again, and we spoke about the progression of Oola there a while ago. There are parallels with the progression of Monagea, county senior champions last year. Put it back to back this year. But put it back to back, Jack, after a very, very testing Limerick Championship, particularly in the knockout stages. And I saw him a couple of times. I saw him in the semi-final and final. Ballylanders really pushed them to the limit in the semi-final. It took extra time before Monagea made the final. For a long period, particularly in the first half, and you were there, Jack, in the county final, it looked as if it was going to be LB's day. But the experience that Monagea have picked up over the years, it definitely came to their rescue on that occasion, and they dug out a great victory. One thing that struck me, Jack, and maybe I have said it to you in the past, talking to the like of Martin O'Sullivan and those that are involved, and some of the players that were involved with Monagea and county final day. The one thing that that struck me was you had the euphoria of winning. You had the euphoria of winning back-to-backs. But the focus had immediately switched to Dr. Crokes. Absolutely instant. And that is where the unfinished business has come in. Like they went to Kerry, had a great win over Dr. Crokes, and then backed it up. Like anytime you go to Clare, it's tough. And they dug it out very, very convincingly. So they're going to Mallow on Sunday at 11 o'clock, Jack. In my opinion, in a very, very good place, and quite capable of taking that extra step. Now, Mullinanhone, of course, would be the home club of hurling heroes, the Kellys, notably Owen Kelly and those, and Paul Cotton, but they won the Munster Junior Championship last year, Jack, and they contested the All-Ireland final unsuccessfully. So in their county final, they beat O'Callaghan and Oola, and I think beat them by something like 7 or 8 points, and then moved on to the semi-final where they beat Waterford's Aaron's Own. So, like, they too are coming in with a bit of pedigree, and Monagea will underestimate the challenge of Mullinanhone at their peril. But I'm sure that the management team back in Monagea will have their side primed. The boys that are involved with him have been around long enough. They've been around the block long enough, and they will be ready. They will be ready for Sunday. Now, interesting, the game is on at 11 o'clock, Jack. It's on at 11 o'clock because Martin O'Sullivan, the Monagea manager, as you know, is a selector with Newcastle West. And one of his key management team, Mike Quilligan, is the Newcastle West goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So,
success,
very, very interesting.
Success.
And actually, the day of the county final, you will recall that himself, Mike Quilligan and Martin O'Sullivan remained, but Mike Quilligan and James Kelly had to make a mad dash to Drumculloher for the final group game against Father Casey's. So a lot of interlinking there, but you could say come Sunday evening, there's a strong possibility that maybe Martin and Mike Quilligan would have an awful lot to celebrate.